My name is Keegan Rourke, 34 years old, and right now my life is nothing but a mess thrown into the trash. I work as a waiter at Pierce Dining Group, an upscale restaurant in Denver where glossy suits and luxury cars park outside like they're showing off to the whole world. That evening was insanely busy. The constant clinking of knives and forks against plates never stopped. The smell of grilled meat and red wine filled the air, making the atmosphere more suffocating than ever. I was running like mad between tables, sweat pouring down my back under my plain uniform, an old white dress shirt and a pitch-black apron. My feet ached from standing for 8 straight hours, but I didn't dare stop. This was the only job I had left after everything collapsed, and I had to grit my teeth and keep going. I was carrying a tray of drinks to table 7, where a middle-aged couple was laughing and chatting happily when the front door swung wide open. The doorbell chimed softly, but to me it sounded like an explosion. I glanced over and my heart sank. It was them, my foster father Martin Rourke, foster mother Dana Rourke, and foster brother Luther Rourke. They were dressed to the nines, Martin in a perfectly tailored gray suit, Dana in a striking red silk dress, and Luther in a shiny leather jacket, looking like he'd just stepped out of some high society gala. They walked in with smug confidence, talking and laughing loudly, heading straight toward the section I was serving. How could this be a coincidence? Or was it on purpose? I tried to avoid their eyes, pretending to be busy with the tray, but it was no use. Their table was right in the middle of my section, and the manager had already assigned me to serve them. Why were they here? I hadn't told anyone about this job. I didn't want them to know how far I'd fallen. But now it was over. I had no choice but to walk toward their table, my legs heavy as if they were made of lead. My simple uniform suddenly felt cheap and ridiculous in their presence. My throat tightened, like someone was strangling me. They had seen me, in this pathetic state, wearing an apron and holding a tray. Martin was the first to notice. His eyes narrowed, then he broke into that contemptuous smile I knew all too well. "Well, well, look who it is," Martin said loudly, his voice cutting through the restaurant's noise. "Keegan, my son. Or should I say, Waiter Keegan." He smirked, placing his hand on the table like he was doing me a favor. I set down the menus, trying to keep my hands from shaking. "Hello? Dad, Mom, Luther?" I whispered, my voice cracking. Martin looked me up and down, his gaze slicing like a knife. "How does it feel, Keegan? From CEO of a flashy startup to wearing an apron and waiting tables. Life changes fast, doesn't it? I told you when you went bankrupt, didn't I? Your career was only ever worth throwing in the trash." His words hit me like a punch in the chest. I tried to swallow, but my throat was bone dry. Dana, my foster mother, sat up straight, her eyes ice cold. She was always good at twisting the knife with words. "Oh, Martin, don't bring up the disappointment again," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "But it's true, Keegan. You've embarrassed us. A failed son waiting tables in a place like this. What do people think when they look at the Rourke family? We raised you, gave you everything, and this is how you repay us." Every word dug deeper into my shame. My face burned, my ears ringing. The guests around us started glancing over and whispering. Luther, my foster brother, leaned back in his chair with that arrogant grin I'd hated since we were kids. He'd always been like that, a spoiled hunting dog. He drawled, his voice thick with mockery. "I heard your wife left you, huh? Lara, guess she finally got tired of a useless husband. You couldn't even keep your own family together, let alone a company." He laughed loudly like it was the funniest joke in the world. Blood rushed to my head, but I had to stay calm. This was my workplace. I couldn't lose it. I took a deep breath and tried to take their order. "What would you like to drink or eat?" I asked, forcing my voice to sound normal. But they wouldn't let me off that easily. They hadn't come to eat. They'd come to tear me apart in front of the entire restaurant. Martin flipped through the menu like it was a joke. He raised an eyebrow, his voice dripping with contempt. "What's the best red wine here, Keegan? Or do you even know what's good, since all you've ever done is wipe tables?" Dana let out a shrill laugh and cut in immediately. "Why even ask him, honey? What about appetizers? Just don't pick anything cheap. Keegan isn't used to serving classy people. We don't want him ruining our dinner." Luther folded his arms, leaned back, and deliberately looked me up and down like I was trash. "Tell us, how does it feel going from CEO to waiter? Does free falling like that hurt? Or are you so used to it now that you don't even feel the shame anymore?" Martin chimed in again, lowering his voice but making sure the neighboring tables could hear. "If I failed as miserably as you, I'd hide and never show my face again. You've got some nerve, Keegan, thick-skinned as steel." Dana added, rubbing salt in the wound. "Look at how clumsy you are. You'll have a hard time finding another job. Just try to hold on to this one, Keegan. It'd be a shame if you lost even this." Every word was like a knife slashing into my flesh. The restaurant went strangely quiet. Sneaky glances from nearby tables crawled down my spine. I tried to write down their order, my hand shaking so badly the writing was illegible. I didn't dare look up. One glance at their smiling faces and I'd collapse. Once I got to the kitchen, I leaned against the wall, my chest burning like someone had set a fire inside it. My heart pounded like it was trying to break out of my ribcage. I closed my eyes for a second. "You can do this, Keegan. Just get through tonight. Just tonight." Then I straightened my apron, hid all the pain behind a mechanical smile, and walked back out to keep serving dish after dish. As if I hadn't heard anything, as if I didn't feel anything. But their every word was burning like wildfire inside my heart. Throughout the meal, they kept making ridiculous, humiliating demands. Martin tapped his glass, scowling on purpose. "Change this bottle. This one tastes like something a poor person would choose." Luther wrinkled his nose before even tasting anything. "Bring different seasoning. There's nothing wrong with this, but I just like making you run." Dana shot me a cold glance and laughed mockingly. "Keegan, how many times have I told you, you need to be quick and efficient? Who would hire you if you're this slow?" Luther continued even more shamelessly. "Get a rag and clean the table. It's dirty." The table was so clean you could see your reflection in it. I ran back and forth, my feet numb, sweat soaking through my shirt. Every time I brought something to their table, my heart raced, not from exhaustion, but because I didn't know what verbal slap they'd deliver next. And like a script they had planned, every time I came back, they'd chuckle quietly and let another razor-sharp comment fly. Luther leaned in, lowering his voice, but making sure I heard clearly. "Look at you, Keegan, just like a dog being ordered around." Martin nodded and added a light jab. "Not bad, though. At least now you found a job that matches your real abilities." I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw hurt, trying to lock all my emotions inside. But the pressure was building in my chest, little by little, like a ticking time bomb just waiting for one more spark. Then the worst moment came. I was carrying out a tray of freshly cooked main courses, steaming hot, smelling incredible. My heart was racing as I tried to keep the tray balanced. Suddenly, Luther stuck his foot out and tripped me. I felt it, his shoe hitting my ankle. The tray tipped. Food spilled everywhere. Hot soup splattered, meat scattered, plates clattered loudly. People around us turned to look. Some covered their mouths and giggled, others whispered. "Oh my God," an old lady at the next table said. "That waiter is so clumsy." My foster family seized the moment. Martin stood up and shouted, "What the hell are you doing, Keegan? Are you that useless? You can't even wait tables properly." Dana shook her head. "This is so embarrassing. We came here to eat, not to watch a clown show." Luther pointed at the mess and laughed. "Clean it up properly or I'm calling the manager." I stood frozen, my face burning red. The judgmental stares from the entire restaurant felt like needles piercing my skin. I had to get down on my knees, pick up every piece of food, wipe the table under everyone's eyes. Tears welled up, but I swallowed them back. "It's just work," I told myself, but inside I was shattering. They finished eating and Luther called me over to pay. He pulled out a $50 bill and placed it on the table like he was bestowing a great favor. I looked at the money and felt a tiny spark of warmth. Maybe they still had a shred of conscience? I bowed my head, about to say thank you. "Thank you." But Luther snatched it back and sneered. "You think you deserve this? He threw a handful of loose change onto the floor, deliberately letting the coins roll far away, clinking loudly on the stone floor. Martin and Dana sat beside him, giggling like they were watching a comedy show. A few customers looked at me with pity, but no one dared intervene. I knelt down to pick up every single coin, my hands trembling, swallowing my tears to finish my shift. Each coin was a reminder of how low I had fallen. They left, laughing and chatting happily as if nothing had happened. I finished cleaning up, then quietly slipped out to the alley behind the restaurant. Rain started pouring down, hitting me hard and cold. I leaned against the wet wall, hands covering my face. And then, after months of holding it in, I broke down and sobbed. Tears mixed with the rain, my shoulders shaking. Why? Why did they do this to me? I cried for my past, for my failures, for the humiliation of tonight. It felt like there was nothing left inside me to hold me up anymore. That night dragged on forever, and I knew tomorrow I would have to keep going. But in the midst of that excruciating humiliation at the restaurant, while my tears hadn't even dried yet, old memories suddenly flooded back like a tidal wave. They dragged me into the past and reminded me that this wasn't the first time I had endured the cruelty of the Rourke Foster family. No, it hadn't started today. It had begun a very long time ago. Sitting there huddled under the rain, my mind reeling, the memories came back so vividly they made my chest tighten. Why were they returning now? Probably because tonight's shame was so overwhelming that it reopened every old wound and made them bleed again. I felt a nervous tremor, as if I were waiting for an inner storm to hit, and sure enough, it came. I remembered my childhood in the Rourke house, where I was never truly considered a real family member. I was adopted at the age of 5 after my biological parents died in a horrific car accident. At first, I thought I was lucky to have a new home, but I quickly realized that was just an illusion. The house was a large villa on the outskirts of Denver with a huge garage in the backyard where my foster father, Martin Rourke, ran his business. Martin, now 62, owned a major auto repair and sales empire and had grown rich through shrewd real estate speculation. He was a domineering, hot-tempered man who barked orders like a petty king. In his eyes, I was never his son. I was just someone to order around, free labor inside his own home. From morning till night, he made me do all the heavy, dirty jobs, washing cars, sweeping the garage, hauling heavy equipment. "Move your lazy hands faster," he would roar, his face red with rage. Then there was my foster mother, Dana Rourke, 58 years old, a sharp-tongued woman who valued appearances above everything else. She treated me with cold, disdainful looks as if I were a stain on her expensive dress. She showered her biological son Luther with everything. Nice clothes, the best food, brand new toys. Me? I got Luther's hand-me-downs or ate only after I'd finished my chores. I still clearly remember those mornings when Luther sat eating hot ham and cheese sandwiches while I had to sweep the garage on an empty stomach. "You'll eat when the work is done," she would say in an icy voice. Her stares made me shrink as though needles were pricking my skin. Family meals were always torture for me. Luther got to sit right next to our parents, laughing and chatting while I was pushed to the far end of the table or forced to eat after everyone else had finished, as if I didn't deserve to sit with them. "Sit down there. That spot's for you," Dana would say without even looking at me. I'd sit there swallowing cold rice, my heart full of shame. Those moments slowly convinced me that I simply didn't deserve love. Dana constantly called me degrading names. "You useless thing, you'll never amount to anything. Remember your place." Every word left a scar, and now, under this rain, those scars were bleeding again, making me tremble with pain. I felt the drama rising inside me, like a movie building to its climax, and then the memories of Luther crashed in. My foster brother, Luther Rourke, now 29, was an arrogant, loud-mouthed brat who grew up completely spoiled by our parents. To him, I was nothing but a punching bag to vent his anger on. From the time we were little, he would shove me, steal my toys, badmouth me in front of his friends, and never once get punished for it. "You're an idiot, a total loser," he'd yell, then laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. Once he pushed me so hard I fell and scraped my knee until it bled, but when I cried, Martin immediately shouted, "Shut up! What are you making such a fuss about? Luther was just playing." Yet the moment I tried to defend myself, Martin punished me. "You dared to hit your little brother? Go work in the garage." Luther was spoiled to the point he believed he was the center of the universe. All through my teenage years, I was constantly compared to him. Even when I got good grades, they were dismissed. "Luther is the really talented one," Dana would say. My own achievements were ignored, like the time I won a school soccer tournament. But they only praised Luther for scoring a goal in a different game. The tiniest mistake I made was blown out of proportion. If I forgot to sweep the garage once, I was locked outside all night. Luther? Everything he did was forgiven. When I grew up, I decided to leave that hell behind. I worked my ass off to build a career and become independent. I founded a ride-sharing app startup, an idea I'd been nursing since college. At first, everything went well. The app connected drivers and passengers, attracted seed money from a few small investors. I felt proud, like I was finally proving my worth. "You can do this, Keegan," I told myself every night while working until the early hours. Then I built a small, happy family with my wife, Lara Quinn, 32 years old, a cool-headed, calculating lawyer whom I loved deeply. We met at a business conference and love came fast. Lara always pushed me forward with her icy but motivating smile. Then our son Nico was born. He's 6 now, a lovely kid with curly hair and a radiant smile. In the evenings, I'd hold Nico until he fell asleep, Lara reading beside us, and I thought life would stay peaceful forever. We had a modest house in the suburbs with a green garden, and I believed I had finally escaped the ghosts of my past. But disaster struck without warning, like a storm that gives no sign, and even now the memory makes my heart clench. 2 years ago, everything collapsed in the blink of an eye. A major partnership I had signed suddenly fell apart. The partner pulled out because of their own internal issues, paralyzing our entire supply chain. The app suffered critical bugs, customers abandoned us in droves, complaints flooded in, investors panicked and withdrew funding en masse. My startup crumbled within months. I remember those sleepless nights staring at bank accounts sinking into the red, filled with despair. What do I do now? I kept asking myself, my heart pounding with fear. In that desperation, I turned to my foster parents for help, hoping there was still some shred of family feeling left. I drove back to the old house, hands shaking as I knocked. But the moment I stepped inside, I was met with looks of pure contempt from Martin and Dana. "What the hell are you doing here?" Martin growled, his face crimson. They dissected my failure in front of me, accused me of being a burden, a stain on the family name. "You think we're going to bail you out? You've been a failure since the day we took you in," Dana screamed, her eyes full of scorn. They used my collapse as the perfect excuse to cut all ties, mocking me for not knowing my place. Then they threw me out like a stranger. "Get the hell out of this house and never come back." The door slammed behind me and I stood in the pouring rain, my heart shattered. That memory makes me tremble with rage even now under this alley rain as I brace myself for the next most painful part. When I got home, I received the second, even crueler blow. Lara was packing her bags, her face expressionless, not a single tear. "I'm leaving, Keegan. You can't support this family anymore," she said in a flat voice like she was reading a verdict. She took Nico with her. The boy was sobbing, clinging to my legs. "Daddy, don't leave me." But I was powerless. I watched the door close, feeling total loss. Family, career, dignity, everything sucked out of my life in a single day. I collapsed on the floor and cried until I had nothing left, overwhelmed by despair. Why? Why is everyone abandoning me? After that fall, I tried to get back on my feet. I sent out job applications everywhere, but no one would hire me. My bankruptcy made me too big a risk in recruiters' eyes. "Thank you, but we can't take you." Rejection after rejection. In the end, the only option left was the evening waiter shift at Pierce Dining Group, just enough to pay rent on a tiny, moldy apartment and keep myself barely alive. That apartment is damp, with an old bed and a small gas stove, but at least I'm still breathing. One day, everything changed unexpectedly, like a faint ray of light piercing through the darkness. It was a chilly autumn afternoon in Denver. A cool wind swept through the streets, carrying the scent of fallen leaves. I was standing in front of the restaurant, waiting for my shift to start, staring out at the bustling road. The dazzling lights from the restaurant spilled onto the row of luxury cars parked outside, painting a picture of opulence. Then I saw him, an old homeless man huddled right in front of the entrance, a stark contrast to all that glamour. He was thin and frail, dressed in tattered clothes, his gray hair tangled and messy. He sat curled up on the steps, clutching a worn-out bag tightly as if afraid someone might steal it. His face was deeply wrinkled, his eyes vacant and fixed on the ground, his weak breath forming faint clouds in the cold air. The sight stopped me in my tracks. My heart suddenly tightened. Why was he here in a place like this? I felt a strange, restless excitement, as if fate were whispering something to me. The restaurant's hostess, a young woman named Sarah, spotted the old man and immediately tried to shoo him away. She stepped outside, her face twisted in annoyance, and snapped harshly, "Move along, old man. This isn't a place for you to sit. What will the customers think?" She pushed him off the steps like he was nothing more than an obstacle, showing no mercy. The old man stumbled, nearly falling backward, grabbing the railing in panic, his eyes wide with fear. The sound of the shove was sharp and cold. I watched him tremble as he struggled to stand without saying a word. That scene stabbed at my heart like an old wound being reopened. I recognized that look of fear and helplessness. It was exactly how I had felt during my darkest days, the nights I cried alone after Lara left, or when my foster family threw me out like a beggar. No one deserves to be treated like this, I thought, a strange feeling rising inside me, part pain, part urgency. Without hesitation, I quietly walked over, holding the dinner I hadn't yet eaten, a chicken sandwich and some salad I'd grabbed from a cheap place nearby. I also gathered the few dollars in tips I'd made the previous shift, about $15, and stuffed them into my pocket. My voice trembled slightly with nerves as I called out to him. The old man looked up, his dull eyes suddenly surprised. I handed him the food and the money. "Here, take this. Eat something warm." He stared at me for a moment, then accepted it with shaking hands. "Thank you, son. You've got a kind heart," he whispered, his voice hoarse from the cold. That moment felt strange, as if a small warmth had slipped into my frozen heart. But some of the staff standing nearby watched the scene with mocking eyes. A couple of co-workers, Mike and Lisa, thought my actions were naive, even pathetic. Mike glanced at me, then leaned toward Lisa and said loudly enough for me to hear, "Look at what Keegan just did. How ridiculous." Lisa raised an eyebrow and replied with open sarcasm, "Can't even take care of himself, and he's out here playing savior to a homeless guy. What an idiot." They snickered, shooting me looks full of pity. I heard every word and it stung, but I didn't care. They don't understand, I thought, my heart racing with a quiet excitement, sensing that this small act might actually mean something. In the days that followed, whenever I saw the old man near the restaurant, I found a way to help. He usually sat in a corner a few steps from the entrance, huddled under an old awning. The first time, I brought him half a leftover sandwich from the kitchen. "Here, eat this while it's still warm." His eyes lit up with gratitude. Next time, a cold bottle of water I sneaked out from the restaurant fridge. "Drink this, sir, it's hot out." Then the old jacket I'd worn for years, shoulders worn thin but still warm. "Put this on, it's cold and windy today." Each time my heart beat faster, nervous that the manager might catch me. They didn't like staff wasting things on outsiders. But I couldn't stop. Helping him made me feel like I still had some worth even in my broken life. One day, after handing him a bottle of water, the old man looked at me for a long time. He sat up a little straighter and asked in his raspy voice, "Why do you keep helping me? I'm just a beggar. Why bother?" My heart pounded. This was the first time he'd said so much. I paused, thought for a second, then answered simply, "Sir, no one. Not you, not anyone. deserves to be treated like garbage. I've been where you are. I know how it feels." He studied me more deeply, then nodded and asked nothing more. From that moment on, the way he looked at me changed. There was warmth, trust, and something like quiet evaluation in his eyes. Every time I brought him something, he gave me a small smile that warmed me in a way I hadn't felt in years. But I also felt a growing excitement, as if he were hiding something, a secret about to be revealed. And I had no idea that those brief moments of kindness had made the old man pay special attention to me, attention that would soon open the greatest turning point of my life. Our encounters gradually became friendlier. Once he spoke vaguely about his past. "I used to have everything, then I lost it all." I nodded and shared a little about my failed startup without going into detail. Each short conversation built a bridge between us, and I could feel the tension rising, like a novel approaching its best chapter. Back then, I only thought these were rare moments of warmth in my cold world. I never imagined they would change everything. Weeks passed, and my life continued its exhausting cycle. Waiting tables, dragging myself back to the tiny apartment, sleeping a few hours, then starting all over again. But those brief moments with the old man gave me a sliver of hope, however small. Then, one Saturday night, everything exploded in a way I could never have imagined. Pierce Dining Group was packed to the brim, weekend peak hour. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, smooth jazz filled the air, and the rich aroma of gourmet food drifted everywhere. A VIP party arrived, the kind of wealthy, powerful people who always got the best tables. I was wiping down trays at the bar when the main door opened. I glanced over, and my heart stopped. It was her, my ex-wife, Laura Quinn, clinging to the arm of some young guy, surrounded by a group of flashy, rich friends, glittering evening gowns, perfectly tailored suits, blinding diamond jewelry. Laura looked as stunning as ever, hair swept up in an elegant bun, radiant smile. But the moment her eyes met mine, I froze. My heart pounded wildly, my hands started shaking. "This can't be happening. What do I do?" I thought, trying to turn away. Why was she here? And who the hell was that guy? Their group strode in, laughing loudly. The hostess led them straight to the VIP table, right in my section. Blood rushed to my head. A storm was coming. I took a deep breath, forced myself to stay calm, and approached. "Good evening, here are your menus," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Laura's eyes widened for a split second in surprise, then instantly shifted to that familiar look of contempt. She spoke loud enough for the whole table and the nearby ones to hear. "Well, well, Keegan. So you're a waiter here now. Looks like this was your inevitable ending, huh? From CEO to this. Life really is unpredictable." Her words cut like a knife, twisting deep into old wounds. Her friends immediately piled on. A blonde woman giggled. "Seriously? What a total loser." The man with his arm around Laura, I later learned his name was Trent Holloway, a young, loaded businessman, looked at me with cold disdain, the smug superiority of someone who's never had to struggle. Tall, slicked-back hair, expensive black suit, and a smile that made me want to punch him. Laura kept going, shamelessly flaunting. I was lucky to get out of that marriage to a man with no future. Things are different now. I found Trent, 100 times more successful than you ever were. She clung tighter to his arm, beaming like she was showing off a trophy. Trent jumped in with instant mockery, his voice carrying, "I heard you used to be some kind of entrepreneur. Looks like you were born to carry trays, not lead companies. Don't bother trying anymore. Waiting table suits you perfectly." The whole table burst into delighted laughter that echoed through the dining room. Heads turned, my face burned, my chest felt crushed. Then the worst moment hit. While pouring red wine, I accidentally let a few drops fall onto the tablecloth. A tiny mistake, nothing unusual. Laura seized it instantly, her voice shrill and venomous. "Look at that, Keegan, can't even pour wine without screwing up. And you think you belong in a place like this? Dream on. You're not good enough for any decent job. You really are useless." Her voice cut through the music, drawing every eye in the room to me. Trent threw his head back and laughed. Get the manager. People like him don't belong here. Their friends joined in, treating it like entertainment. I tried to stay calm and apologize. I'm so sorry, I'll clean it right away. But Lara was already on her feet, waving dramatically. Manager, now! I want this man fired immediately. He's ruining my evening. The manager, Mr. Harlan, came running, face pale with panic. Terrified of losing VIP customers, he instantly took their side. I sincerely apologize. We'll handle this at once. Keegan, what the hell are you doing? He looked at me like I was disposable. Someone he'd toss out to save the restaurant's reputation. My heart hammered chaotically. My chest tightened so hard I felt sick. This is really the end, I thought, gripping the tray in despair. Harlan took a deep breath, ready to fire me in front of everyone. Keegan, you... At that exact second, a familiar figure limped into the middle of the dining room. The homeless old man I'd been helping, wearing the same old rain-soaked coat and tattered hat. The entire restaurant erupted in outrage. Security started moving in aggressively. But the moment Harlan saw the old man's face, he went white as a sheet and stammered, Mr. Pierce Langston? My heart stopped. Pierce Langston? The billionaire owner of the entire Pierce Dining Group chain? Impossible! The old man calmly removed his ragged hat, wiped his face with his sleeve, and revealed the face that had been on hundreds of magazine covers. Neatly combed silver hair, sharp eyes, and a subtle, knowing smile. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The room fell dead silent, then whispers exploded. That's Pierce Langston. He spoke, his voice ringing with unmistakable authority. I've been watching this restaurant for some time, and I've seen exactly how everyone here behaves. This young man, he pointed straight at me, is the most decent person in this building. Tonight he did nothing wrong. It was like a bomb going off. Lara's mouth hung open, her face went from scorn to pure shock. Trent turned pale. Their friends shut up instantly. I stood frozen, heart pounding, not understanding what was happening. Mr. Pierce turned to the manager. Apologize to him right now, Harlan, and security, escort this rude group out. We don't tolerate that kind of behavior here. Harlan stammered, Keegan, I'm so sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me. Security moved in and politely but firmly invited Trent, Lara, and their entire party to leave. They stormed out in fury and humiliation, shooting me venomous glares. Lara gave me one last look, regret mixed with rage, while Trent muttered something under his breath, face crimson. Mr. Pierce stepped to the center of the dining room and addressed the other guests. My apologies for the disturbance, ladies and gentlemen. Please accept a complimentary dessert on the house. The room erupted into warm applause. The moment turned into an emotional triumph for me. I stood there, tears threatening to spill, heart still racing from the drama. Before leaving, he pressed a small note with an address into my hand. Come see me tomorrow, Keegan. We have things to discuss. He turned and walked out, leaving me standing in the middle of the dining room, stunned, grateful, and overwhelmed by the truth that had just been revealed. That night, I went back to my apartment clutching the note, my heart pounding with nervous anticipation. My life was about to change forever, and I wasn't ready. That night stretched on forever. I lay on the creaky old bed in my damp, moldy apartment, staring wide-eyed at the cracked ceiling. The homeless old man I'd been helping was actually the billionaire owner of the entire restaurant chain. My heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. What could he possibly want from me? A thank you? Or was this some kind of cruel joke? I tossed and turned until I finally fell asleep, only to be haunted by chaotic dreams. Lara sneering, Trent shouting, and Mr. Pierce smiling warmly. The next morning I woke up early, put on the cleanest clothes I owned, an old white dress shirt and slacks, and took the bus to the address on the note. The whole ride there, my mind was in knots, nerves buzzing like I was heading to a life-changing job interview. When I arrived, I was completely overwhelmed from the very first glance. The mansion was enormous and so luxurious I didn't even dare step through the gate. It was a grand Victorian-style estate with towering wrought iron gates, sprawling manicured gardens, and a sparkling fountain catching the sunlight. Luxury cars filled the driveway, and the air itself seemed to radiate wealth, the kind you only see in movies. I stood outside the gate, hesitating, my heart pounding. I don't belong here, I thought, drowning in self-doubt. The gatekeeper came out, asked my name, and escorted me inside. We walked through marble-floored corridors lined with expensive paintings, and I felt like an intruder. The suspense was killing me. What would Mr. Pierce say? Would he be different now that he was in his own home? When I finally saw him again in the vast living room with its leather sofas and warm fireplace, I was so nervous and shy I could barely speak. Good morning, Mr. Pierce, I stammered, standing awkwardly to the side, but the old man treated me with the exact same warmth and kindness he'd shown when he was still homeless. Not a single change. He smiled, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Sit down, Keegan. You look terrified. Tea?" He poured from a silver teapot, his voice as gentle as if we were old friends. I sat, hands trembling around the cup, deeply moved. Why would someone so powerful treat me like this? Mr. Pierce explained that he had been watching me for weeks, from the moments I helped him on the street to the way I worked at the restaurant. I've seen a rare kind of decency in you, Keegan. Not everyone stops to help a homeless old man like me. You did it out of genuine goodness, not for gain. His words left me speechless and emotional. Tears welled up. My heart pounded with nervous joy. Really, sir? I just did what anyone should, I managed, voice thick. He nodded, eyes full of sincerity, and in that moment a bridge was built between us. I could feel the drama building, like a new chapter was about to begin. After a pause, he offered me the position of shift assistant manager at the very restaurant where I had once been a waiter, a modest but responsible role that required real trust. "You'll support the manager and learn how to run things. I believe in you," he said firmly. I was stunned by the immense faith he was placing in me, something far beyond anything I had dared to dream. Are you sure, sir? I failed before. I went bankrupt," I stammered, heart racing. He smiled. "Everyone fails sometimes, Keegan. Everyone falls. What matters is how you get back up, and you've already proven that." I nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude and anxiety. This was a second chance, but I was terrified of letting him down. The tension was rising. What would I do with it? In the days that followed, I started the new job with intense nervousness. As shift assistant manager, I assisted the head manager, checked service quality, trained new staff, handled minor incidents, and made sure everything ran smoothly during peak hours. On my first day, I arrived early, wearing the new uniform, heart hammering as I stepped into the kitchen. "Check the tables, Keegan," the manager said, and I threw myself into it, making sure cutlery was spotless, tablecloths perfectly smooth, showing a new waiter how to pour wine without spilling. Peak hours hit, customers everywhere, and I handled a small complaint, wrong order, by apologizing quickly and fixing it on the spot. I worked with care, humility, and responsibility, gradually earning the respect of my colleagues. Guests started to appreciate my attentiveness too. An elderly lady once said, "You're such a thoughtful young man." Every compliment slowly erased the old shame, but I still felt nervous, terrified of making a mistake. After each shift, Mr. Pierce personally mentored me, private lessons in his office with hot coffee and a notebook. He taught me financial management. "Look at this report. Here's how you balance costs. Streamlining operations. Do it this way to serve faster. Hiring. Ask this question to see if they're honest. Retaining VIP clients. Remember their names. Notice the smallest details. Crisis management. Stay calm, apologize first, then fix it." These were things no one had ever taught me before, and I absorbed them like a sponge. Between lessons, our relationship grew close. Mr. Pierce began treating me like the son he never had. For the first time, I felt genuine fatherly love, shoulder pats, warm advice. "You're like a son to me," he said once, and I nearly choked up. My heart raced with happiness, but also with fear of losing it. Yet not everyone was happy about it. His daughter, Juliet Pierce, a beautiful woman around 30 with long brown hair and sharp eyes, viewed our closeness with suspicion. She managed part of her father's businesses and often visited the mansion. One day she caught me there. I had come to give a work report and said coldly, "Who are you? What are you doing here? Are you trying to take advantage of my father's kindness?" Her words cut like a knife. My heart sank, panic rising. I was afraid of losing everything. I didn't argue or defend myself. I simply bowed my head. "I'm just doing my job, miss." Then I quietly continued working hard, behaving impeccably, living in a way that left no room for shame. My dedication and character slowly became obvious to everyone in leadership. Within just 3 months, I became the clear frontrunner for a senior management position, earning absolute trust from the top and strong support from the entire staff. "Keegan's going to be promoted to manager," people whispered, and Mr. Pierce nodded with satisfaction. My heart pounded with nervous excitement. This was huge, but the pressure was growing too. Even Juliet began to change. She gradually noticed my hard work and decency, how I handled restaurant issues with skill and grace, how I took care of her father, bringing his medicine on time, listening to his stories, how I never took advantage of favors, even turning down expensive gifts. Each small thing slowly but surely shifted the way she looked at me. One day she stopped by the restaurant, watched me work, and gave a faint smile. You're doing well, just like everyone says." My heart raced, a new feeling stirring inside. My life was changing, and the real drama was only just beginning. Time passed peacefully in the following months. Work grew busier, my bond with Mr. Pierce deepened, and I slowly began to feel as though I were rebuilding my life from the ashes. Then, without warning, his health suddenly collapsed, like a violent storm breaking out of a clear sky. It was a golden autumn afternoon. I was at the mansion for our usual weekly report. Mr. Pierce was strolling in the vast back garden, the place where he loved to sit every morning sipping tea and watching the flowers bloom. I spotted him from afar, his posture a little stooped, yet he still smiled and waved at me. Suddenly he collapsed right on the stone path, clutching his chest, face ashen. My heart stopped. Pure panic surged through me. "Mr. Pierce, what's wrong?" I shouted, rushing to his side. He lay there gasping, eyes clouded with pain. I called the ambulance immediately, gripping his hand with trembling fingers. "Hold on, sir, the ambulance is coming." Juliet came running from the house, her face white with terror. Dad, what's happening?" We rushed him to the hospital in critical condition, sirens screaming the whole way. In the ambulance, I sat beside him, fear choking me. "He'll be okay," I kept telling myself, but dread gnawed at my heart. After several hours of emergency surgery, the doctor called us in. His voice was grave. "Mr. Pierce has late-stage lung cancer. It has metastasized. There isn't much time left, perhaps only a few months." The words hit like lightning. I stood frozen, chest aching. Cancer? Why hadn't he told us? Juliet burst into sobs and clung to me in her moment of weakness. Mr. Pierce lay pale on the bed but still managed a faint smile. "Don't worry, my children. I've lived a full life." From that day on, I spent nearly all my time at his side, caring for him like a son caring for his own father. I left work early to go to the hospital, helped him walk, made sure he took his medication on time, assisted the doctors during checkups, and paid attention to every tiny detail, brewing the warm tea he loved, reading the newspaper aloud, wiping sweat from his brow when he had fever. "Thank you, Keegan. I'm so happy," he would whisper, squeezing my hand. Every moment filled me with dread that it might be the last. I felt I was repaying him, yet it tore me apart to watch him fade. Juliet saw my devotion firsthand, and it changed everything. She saw the nights I stayed awake by his bed, sitting on hard chairs without complaint. The way I prepared nutritious meals and cut them into small pieces so he could swallow. How I adjusted his pillows for comfort. How I held his hand when breathing was hard and whispered, "I'm right here, sir, don't worry." Each act made her look at me differently, no longer with suspicion but with warmth. One day she walked in while I was telling him a funny story to make him laugh. Later in the hallway, she whispered, You're amazing, Keegan. My father is so lucky to have you." My heart raced, overwhelmed by the shift in her eyes. Gradually, Juliet began to trust me. The old coldness and doubt melted away, replaced by gratitude and warmth as she witnessed my genuine care for her father. We started talking more, about Mr. Pierce, about work, sometimes about life. She opened up about losing her mother young, about the pressure of managing the family empire. I listened and comforted her. I too noticed that the way Juliet looked at me had changed, gentler, deeper, as if something unspoken was slowly growing between us. Every time our eyes met, my heart pounded, nervous about what might come next. But Mr. Pierce's condition worsened day by day like a prolonged nightmare. He grew weaker, ate less, struggled to breathe. I practically lived at the hospital, sacrificing sleep to be with him. We talked about the past. He told me how he had built the restaurant empire from nothing. I told him about my old startup, about my son Nico. He listened with pride in his eyes. I cared for him with a love I had never been able to give any father figure, wiping his face, massaging his feet to ease the pain, humming the old songs he loved. "You're like my own flesh and blood son," he said faintly one day, and I choked up. The suspense and dread grew daily. I knew time was running out. Juliet was there too, and together we held on hand in hand, without needing words. One quiet morning, sunlight streaming through the hospital window, Mr. Pierce called Juliet and me to his bedside. He lay there, breathing shallowly, face serene. "Come here, my children, I have something to say," he rasped. We sat beside him, my heart pounding with a terrible premonition. With his remaining strength, he gave me final instructions about the restaurants. "Keegan, keep it strong. Expand it the way I always dreamed. Take care of Juliet for me." Then he took Juliet's hand and placed it in mine, as though entrusting us to each other. "Look after one another, my children." He looked at us one last time with calm, loving eyes, then quietly closed them forever. He slipped away, leaving his daughter and the son who shared no blood in shattering grief. I held Juliet as we both wept, my heart broken. "He's gone," I whispered, the suspense dissolving into endless pain. The funeral was dignified and grand, held at the mansion. Hundreds came, friends, business partners, restaurant staff. I stayed constantly by Juliet's side, handling many arrangements in her father's place, ordering flowers, greeting guests, ensuring everything ran smoothly. I supported her when she cried, held her when she faltered. "I'm here. You don't have to go through this alone." She silently thanked me for the strength she needed more than anything, and those moments drew us even closer. The funeral ended in tears, and I felt a nervous emptiness, life without Mr. Pierce. A week later, Mr. Pierce's lawyer summoned me to the reading of the will at his office. I was stunned. Why was I included in such a private family matter? "I'm not even related by blood," I thought, heart racing with anxiety. Juliet sat beside me, eyes still red. When the will was read, the room fell silent in shock. I was bequeathed $1.8 billion and full executive control of the entire Pierce Dining Group chain. Juliet received the mansion, the yacht, the estates, and other properties as her father had wished. I sat frozen, ears ringing. What is happening? How is this possible? Juliet looked at me, eyes brimming with emotion. "Dad, he trusted you completely." The lawyer handed me a handwritten letter from Mr. Pierce. Back home, I opened it and read his final words. "Keegan, my son, I saw in you kindness and strength. Lead the restaurants well and take care of Juliet. I am proud of you." Every word brought fresh tears of gratitude. Silently, I vowed to live up to the faith and expectations he had placed in me. My heart pounded, overwhelmed by the immense responsibility, yet filled with hope. My life had turned a new page, and the drama was only beginning. Time passed swiftly, like a river sweeping me along through endless changes. With the inheritance and full control of the Pierce Dining Group chain, I threw myself into the work, determined to honor the vision of Mr. Pierce, the spiritual father who had saved my life. From the very first days, I began restructuring everything, optimizing the supply chain to cut costs without sacrificing quality, training staff more thoroughly in customer service, and revamping the menu with creative dishes that blended local flavors with international cuisine. Every morning I arrived at the central office in Denver, sat at the huge desk that had once been Mr. Pierce's, and planned the future. "Dad, I'll make you proud. I'll carry on your dream," I whispered to myself, heart racing with nervous excitement, terrified I might not be worthy. I opened new locations in major cities, Los Angeles, New York, each launch a challenge, choosing the perfect spot, designing interiors that were luxurious yet welcoming, and marketing to draw in crowds. Juliet became my indispensable partner in every major decision. She handled finances with her razor-sharp mind and the experience she'd gained helping her father. We complemented each other perfectly. I focused on creativity and service. She managed money and long-term strategy. Our relationship grew naturally through every project, every late night in the office fixing plans, sharing coffee and private stories. It began with respect, deepened into true friendship, and finally blossomed into a profound love we both cherished. The first time I held her after a long, exhausting day, my heart pounded. Are you sure?" She smiled and said, "You're the man Dad entrusted me to, and I've loved you for a long time." That love was like a warm flame, healing old wounds and filling my life with color. My life became better than I had ever dared imagine. A solid career with my own office and a dedicated team. Peace of mind when I came home each night. Now to Juliet's mansion, where we cooked together and talked for hours. Complete love with her, warm embraces and plans for the future. For the first time, I truly felt valued, not as the despised foster child, but as a successful man who was genuinely loved. Often I stood alone in the mansion's garden, thinking of Mr. Pierce, and whispered, "Thank you, Dad. Thank you for believing in me." Yet a quiet nervousness remained. Life can change in an instant. While my world steadily brightened, news about my foster family spread everywhere like a dark shadow crawling back from the past. Their auto garage declared bankruptcy due to terrible management, then faced a string of lawsuits for tax fraud and scamming customers. Assets were seized, the house sold at auction, their reputation destroyed. They were left struggling with nothing but debt. Martin and Dana had to sell their cars and move into a cheap rental. Luther drifted, unemployed. I heard about it through the papers. I felt neither joy nor sorrow, only a faint, tense curiosity about what they might do next. They abandoned me once. Now look at them, I thought, but I didn't seek them out. Then one afternoon, after a meeting about the next new branch, everyone clapping in the sunlit boardroom, my assistant said, "There are visitors here to see you. They say they're family." My heart raced, nervous tension surged through me. Them? My foster family coming straight to my office? I stepped out and saw Martin and Dana, gaunt, hollow-cheeked, eyes filled with desperation as they took in my executive suit. Martin was now thin and completely white-haired. Dana's makeup was smudged. Luther stood behind them, scowling. They looked like ghosts from a past life. The air grew thick with tension, the drama peaking. They bowed their heads before me, voices trembling as if one more second of silence would make them collapse. Martin choked out, eyes red. "Keegan, we were wrong. So wrong. The way we treated you all those years, I regret it deeply. Please, forgive us." Dana sobbed, wiping tears and clutching at my sleeve. "Son, we treated you horribly. We abandoned you. Now we have nothing left. The garage is gone, the money is gone. Please help us just this once. Give us any job. You're our last hope." They begged and cried, clinging to me like drowning people grasping at driftwood. Luther, however, stayed silent behind them. No plea escaped his lips, but his eyes burned red with hatred, as if his parents humbling themselves before me was the ultimate humiliation of his life. I listened in silence, but my heart felt only the cold emptiness of someone who had once been discarded and trampled until he lost everything. The memories of humiliation at the restaurant, of being thrown out when I went bankrupt. They came back, but they no longer hurt. Calmly and firmly, I refused every plea. "I don't owe you anything anymore. The past is closed. Face the consequences of your own actions." My words rang out cold and final. They stared in shock, eyes wide. Martin and Dana stumbled away, lost and broken, shoulders shaking. Watching them go, I realized the past was truly over. I owed them nothing. No anger, no pity, only peace. Luther, however, couldn't accept it. He glared at me with pure venom, furious that the worthless failure of yesterday now stood at the top. "You think you're something now? I won't let this go," he growled, spitting threats before storming off, face crimson with rage. For a second, my heart raced with old tension, but calm quickly returned. I simply stood there, watching their figures disappear. No fear, no pain. I understood they were finally paying the price for what they had sown, while I had stepped into a completely new life, one filled with hope and drama still waiting ahead. In the days following that confrontation, I tried to push Luther's threat out of my mind and focus on work and my life with Juliet. We were busy with expansion plans for the restaurant chain, endless meetings and short business trips. Yet deep down, a vague unease lingered, as if his words were a ticking time bomb. "He's just talking big," I told myself. But at night, the childhood memories of being bullied by him came flooding back, making sleep restless. I didn't tell Juliet. I didn't want her to worry, but I quietly increased security measures, asking the team to check cameras more often, driven only by a bad feeling. I didn't know that after I refused to help him, Luther sank deeper into debt than ever. He wandered the worst neighborhoods of Denver, hunted relentlessly by loan sharks and creditors. Threatening phone calls never stopped. Burly men waited outside his cheap rental. He lived like a cornered rat, hiding and running. In that desperation, he convinced himself that every misfortune stemmed from me, the foster brother he once despised. "It's all because of that bastard. He got rich and turned his back, leaving me to rot like this," he muttered alone in his dark room, eyes bloodshot from alcohol and rage. A plan for revenge took shape, dark and twisted, growing inside his broken mind. Only later, from his own confession, did I learn that he had spent nights plotting, his heart racing with sick excitement. "I'll drag him down to hell. I'll make him lose everything the way I did." The tension was rising, and I had no idea, yet that gut feeling kept me on edge whenever I thought of him. In his desperation, Luther devised a reckless scheme to directly sabotage Pierce Dining Group, destroy my reputation, and take everything from me the way he wished he could. Words were no longer enough. He wanted action. He wanted to see me fall. He started by contacting old underworld connections, scar-faced, tattooed thugs willing to do anything for cash. He met them in a smoky, dimly lit bar and whispered the plan. "I need you to spread fake rumors online. Say Pierce restaurants use expired, low-quality ingredients and commit tax fraud. Make the press pick it up. Panic the customers." They got to work immediately. Fake social media accounts, photoshopped images of rotten meat, and fraudulent invoices, hashtags like #PierceScam and #BoycottPierce. The lies spread like wildfire. A few local outlets ran vague stories, and I started getting calls from the PR team. "Mr. Keegan, nasty rumors are going viral." My heart raced with alarm. I had no idea where it was coming from, but I quickly ordered investigations and public rebuttals. But Luther didn't stop there. He escalated to something far more dangerous. He decided to strike in person. He targeted the late-night delivery area of a suburban Denver branch, the place where fresh produce arrived every evening with huge cold storage rooms and parked trucks. He chose a stormy midnight, rain pouring, wind howling through dark streets, perfect cover. Dressed in black, hood up, Luther carried a bottle of strange powder, a toxic substance bought on the black market, enough to cause mass poisoning. He cut through the back fence, slipped into the loading zone, avoiding the old cameras he assumed hadn't been upgraded. The air was freezing, thick with the smell of fresh food. He opened a crate of beef, sprinkled the powder inside, then vanished. Every footstep felt like the countdown of a bomb. Later, when I reviewed the footage, my heart raced at how close he had come to succeeding. But the security system I had completely overhauled after taking over the company, infrared cameras, motion sensors, 24/7 guards, recorded everything. I had invested millions to protect Mr. Pierce's legacy from theft or sabotage, never imagining it would save me from Luther. Security spotted the intruder on the monitors, a dark figure sneaking through the warehouse, and locked the area down instantly. Alarms screamed, floodlights snapped on. As Luther tried to escape through the back door, guards blocked him. "Intruder, freeze! Who the hell are you?" He panicked and ran. A chase exploded through the night, across the rainy loading yard between trucks. Rain lashed like whips. Luther slipped on the wet ground, sliding several feet. Behind him, guards with flashlights closed in, beams slicing through the darkness. He zigzagged between vehicles, panting, heart pounding with terror and adrenaline. One guard tackled him, slamming him into the mud. "Got you, you little rat! You're done!" The drama reached its peak. I was called to the scene in the middle of the night. Juliet, worried, whispered, "Be careful, love." I drove through the storm, heart hammering. What now? When I arrived, police lights flashed, rain still pouring. I saw the full extent of Luther's plot to destroy me out of nothing but envy and senseless hatred. The bottle of poison, crystal clear security footage of his face, and his initial confession. I stood frozen, watching him in handcuffs, face smeared with mud. He glared at me with pure venom. "You think you've won? I did this because you abandoned your family." Luther was arrested with ironclad evidence: property damage, contaminating inventory, attempted mass poisoning, and trespassing. All heavy felonies that could land him in prison for years. He kept screaming in rage, unable to accept that the foster brother he once looked down on had risen far beyond anything he could ever reach. "You traitor! I'll be back, just wait." His voice echoed through the rainy night, but everyone just shook their heads in pity. I watched without joy or anger, only sadness at the tragic cycle of selfishness and indulgence Martin and Dana had planted in him since childhood. He had grown up with everything handed to him, never knowing failure, so now he couldn't bear my success. What a tragedy, I thought, my heart still racing from the chase. As Luther was led away, shoved into the back of a police car with sirens wailing, I turned and walked off. The last thread tying me to my foster family had finally snapped. From now on, my life looked only forward. Beside Juliet and the legacy Mr. Pierce had entrusted to me, I went home, held Juliet tight, told her everything, and we both let out a long breath of relief. The drama was over, but deep down I knew life still held many surprises ahead. After Luther's incident, my life gradually settled back into calm waters, like a river finally finding its peaceful rhythm again after a violent storm. I poured all my energy into running the restaurant chain, determined to turn it into more than just a place that served meals, into a space that brought joy and warmth to every guest, exactly as Mr. Pierce had always dreamed. Juliet was always by my side, supporting every step with her warm smile and sharp advice. "You're doing great, but don't forget to rest." We spent more time together than ever. Lazy afternoons having coffee in the mansion's garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and gentle breezes. Late evenings curled up watching movies, forgetting all exhaustion. Sometimes my heart still raced with nervous fear that this happiness was too fragile, but Juliet always reassured me. "We've been through so many storms already. Now it's time to enjoy the calm." That stability made me feel as though I was rebuilding my life from scratch, but this time on a foundation stronger than ever. I began getting involved in charity work, just as Mr. Pierce used to do, donating to homeless shelters. Every time I did, I thought of him with deep gratitude. Life was no longer a fight for survival. It had become a meaningful journey, and I looked forward with quiet excitement to whatever good surprises lay ahead. My career continued to soar like a rocket blasting into the sky. New locations opened one after another, spreading from Denver to major cities, Miami, Boston, even into Canada and Mexico. Each grand opening was a spectacle, neon lights blazing, celebrity guests, reporters crowding for photos. Headlines praised Pierce Dining Group under Keegan Rourke, a spectacular transformation. They wrote about how I had taken a traditional chain and turned it into a modern icon with clean, sustainable menus and personalized service. I remember one Forbes interview where the reporter asked, "What's your secret?" I smiled and said, "Kindness and perseverance, just as Mr. Pierce taught me." Revenue skyrocketed, employees received huge bonuses, and guests kept coming back. from romantic couples to big family gatherings. My heart still raced every time I signed a new contract, afraid of making a mistake, but Juliet was always there. "You've got this." That soaring success felt like standing at the very top of the world, yet it carried its own drama. Would another storm come? I finally regained the peaceful rhythm of life I had once lost, like a gift the universe had decided to return to me. Mornings were filled with energy, reviewing reports, leading team meetings, then heading home early to be with Juliet. Evening walks with her through the mansion's garden, where Mr. Pierce used to sit drinking tea, now filled with roses and ancient trees, gave me a sense of complete peace I had never known before. Then one rainy afternoon, the past struck again like a sudden shock. Rain poured down, wind howled around the gates, and I was sitting in the living room reading the paper when the doorbell rang. Juliet went to answer and called out, "Keegan, someone's here to see you." My heart instantly pounded. I walked to the door and froze. There stood my ex-wife, Lara, soaked to the bone, looking exhausted and broken. Her hair was a mess under the rain, her clothes drenched. Behind her, clinging to her leg, was our son Nico, now 8 years old, wide-eyed and confused, clutching a small suitcase. Lara looked nothing like the proud, cold woman I once knew. Only desperation remained, her eyes red from crying. "Keegan, I just want to talk," she whispered, voice trembling. I stood speechless, tension rising. Why was she here after all these years? Juliet stood beside me, holding my hand. The air felt thick, like a scene from a dramatic movie. Lara confessed that her new life had fallen apart. The man, Trent Holloway, had abandoned her after his own company went bankrupt. She had lost everything, no money, no home. "I was wrong, Keegan. Trent took everything and left me. I've been drifting, doing odd jobs to feed Nico, but I can't anymore. Please help me. For our son," she begged, falling to her knees in the rain, hugging Nico. The boy looked up at me, eyes glistening. My heart ached, memories flooding back. The day she walked out on me, took Nico, and mocked me in the restaurant in front of everyone. I saw her desperation now. But I also remembered the pain she caused, walking away when I needed her most, telling me I wasn't man enough to be a provider. I took a deep breath and spoke as calmly as I could. "Lara, I've forgiven you, but I can't save you anymore. This path, you chose it yourself." At those words, she broke down sobbing, shoulders shaking violently. "Please, for Nico, your son, I'm begging you." My heart raced, chest tight with emotion, but I looked her straight in the eye and didn't back down. "If you truly love him, let him live with me. Here, Nico will have a stable future and a real family." A few days later, Lara returned quietly, like a ghost from the past. The rain had eased, but she stood outside the gate without knocking. I opened it and watched her set Nico's small suitcase down. She looked at her son one last time, eyes brimming with tears. "Stay with Daddy, okay? Mommy has to go." Nico cried out, "Mommy, don't leave me." But Lara turned and walked away without another word, disappearing into the shadows as if trying to vanish from our lives forever, her figure swaying in the rain. My heart pounded with emotion and shock as I watched her go. I pulled my son into my arms, finally feeling the wholeness I had waited so long for. A second chance with the boy I had once been forced to lose. "It's okay now," I whispered, tears rolling down my cheeks as I held him tight. "From now on, no one will ever abandon you again. Daddy's here. You're safe." He buried his face in my chest and sobbed. In that moment, the hole in my heart began to heal. Juliet welcomed the boy with open arms and endless patience. Her warmth quickly won him over. Soon he saw her as his new mom. She played with him in the garden, read bedtime stories, and taught him to draw. "Oh, you shaded the tree like that? So clever, not many kids would think of that." Nico grinned, proud but shy. "Do you like it, Miss Juliet?" "I love it," she answered softly but sincerely. "You have your own special way of seeing things. I just guide, the best parts are all you." I watched them from a distance and felt my heart squeeze, a sudden, overwhelming peace settling in, like a real family was finally forming right before my eyes. We began building a true family, Dinners filled with laughter where Nico told us about school, Juliet cooked amazing meals and I told silly jokes. Weekend trips to parks or the beach, Nico running wild while we held hands. Cozy evenings in the living room watching movies or playing games, creating the kind of calm, happy home I had never known. "Our family is so happy, Dad," Nico said one day. I hugged him tight. "You're right, son, and I'll protect this happiness for you no matter what." My love with Juliet grew even stronger as we raised him together. It became the foundation that kept me moving forward confidently in both career and life. Every day I felt a quiet thrill about the future. Our upcoming wedding, maybe more children, the restaurants continuing to grow. My life was now complete, yet still full of beautiful surprises waiting ahead. After everything we had been through, from the darkest days to the painful losses of Mr. Pierce and the confrontation with Luther, Juliet and I decided to get married. It felt as natural as breathing, as if fate had planned it all along. We chose a small, intimate ceremony in the back garden of the Pierce mansion, the very place where the old man used to sit every morning, sipping tea and watching the sunrise filter through the leaves. That garden was now bursting with blooming roses, winding stone paths, and the gentle trickle of the fountain. A place full of memories that still made my heart race with nervous excitement whenever I thought of it. "I want to get married here where Dad was happiest," Juliet said, her eyes shining. I pulled her close. "I want that too." This is where everything began for us. We prepared carefully but simply, pure white flowers, rustic wooden chairs, and a close family friend as the officiant. Every step of the planning filled me with nervous anticipation, like waiting for the climax of a dramatic story. Would everything go perfectly? But Juliet always calmed me. "It's going to be beautiful, my love." Nico was chosen as the honorary best man, and the boy was so excited he barely slept the night before. We had a tiny light blue suit tailored for him. He stood in front of the mirror, grinning from ear to ear. "Do I look like Dad yet?" My heart swelled with warmth and nervous joy at how grown up he seemed. The wedding day arrived under soft golden sunlight. Nico held my hand as we walked down the flower-strewn aisle to the simple wooden altar in the middle of the garden. The pride in his eyes moved everyone watching. Guests whispered. Juliet smiled from afar, and I had to fight back tears. "You're doing great, son." He walked confidently, carrying the rings, and when he handed them to us, the whole garden burst into applause. That moment felt like a perfect, heart-wrenching scene from a movie. The ceremony was simple but breathtakingly beautiful. No extravagance, just the people closest to us. Family, the loyal staff who had been with the restaurants from the beginning, and even some of those Mr. Pierce had once helped. Former employees, once homeless people he had lifted up with kindness. They came to celebrate like true family with warm hugs and heartfelt words. "Mr. Pierce would be so proud," one said, and I nearly broke down. Juliet walked in wearing a simple white dress, holding a small bouquet, and we exchanged vows beneath the ancient tree. "I will be with you for the rest of my life. No matter what comes," I said, voice trembling with emotion. She answered, "And I choose you, today and every day after." Everyone clapped, and in that moment the story reached its emotional peak, from tears of the past to joy in the present. Afterward, we cut the cake, danced gently under lantern light, and I felt life was perfect, yet still tinged with that familiar nervous thrill about the future. After the wedding, our life turned a new page. Juliet, Nico, and I under one roof, filled with laughter, understanding, and love. The mansion became a real home. Nico's room overflowing with toys, the kitchen always smelling of fresh-baked cookies. Evenings gathered together as a family. We taught Nico about kindness, told him stories about Mr. Pierce, and he grew up surrounded by love. Every day brought small surprises. Nico learning piano, Juliet painting with him, me telling stories of my old startup as life lessons. My heart often raced with happiness, and with the quiet fear of losing it all. Under our leadership, Pierce Dining Group grew stronger than ever. Locations upgraded to the highest standards, state-of-the-art equipment, world-class staff training. The chain officially earned 5-star international culinary status, winning Michelin recognition and industry awards. Headlines called us the golden couple of fine dining, and every article made my heart swell with pride and nervous excitement. 1 year later, Juliet gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, the ultimate dramatic peak of my life. I stayed by her side in the delivery room, smiling through tears, wiping sweat from her forehead. The baby cried and the doctor placed her in my arms. "Congratulations, it's a girl." I named her Aria Pierce Rourke, as a tribute to the man who changed everything. Aria means melody, like the beautiful song Mr. Pierce brought into my life. "Aria, my little girl," I whispered, tears streaming down. Aria's arrival made our family complete. Big brother Nico was constantly by her side, protecting and playing with her like a little hero. "I'll keep you safe, Aria." He held her, sang lullabies, and we all laughed with pure joy. I often stood quietly watching the two children play in the sunlit living room, golden afternoon light spilling across the floor, and felt like I was living a dream I never dared to dream. Those moments made me look back on everything. The days of humiliation as a waiter, the nights caring for Mr. Pierce, the betrayals by Lara and my foster family, the temporary loss of Nico, and finally the light life had granted me. I understood that the road to happiness is never smooth. It's full of tears, ruins, and doors slammed in your face. I remembered crying alone in the alley behind the restaurant, the despair when my startup collapsed, the agony of losing Mr. Pierce, all dramatic trials that left me breathless, never knowing what came next. But I learned one truth: kindness is never wasted. It may be trampled at first, but it comes back in the most beautiful, unexpected ways, just as Mr. Pierce found me after the small acts of help I gave him. Watching my children laugh and play beside the woman I love, Keegan Rourke delivers his final message to himself and to anyone still lying broken in the dark. No matter how many times you're betrayed or pushed to the bottom, never let your faith in yourself die. Stand up, live kindly, and one day the light will find you.